Hey everybody, this is John Wydogen back again with Natural Freedom League. You can find us at naturalfreedomleague.com. Here again with my producer and co-host, Chill Will Keller. How you doing, Will?
Hey, what's up, brother? Doing good, man.
Yeah, doing really good. We had a good day yesterday out in San Francisco. The great work at the Great Highway, putting signs in people's faces, and here on a Sunday, the sun's out in the Bay Area, and we are with our friend on the not necessarily the East Coast. I'm bad with my geography, but from
I'm from the East Coast, I guess. I'm in the middle now.
okay, Sean McCann, Wake the Dead podcast. How you doing, brother?
Thank you kindly. I'm here, and I'm glad, honored to be here with you, Mr. Wydogen, and Mr. Will Keller. And
Yeah, man. Thanks for having us.
this is great.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
so you're a fellow contributor of the One Great Work Network, and I've I kind of met you online virtually through some group. I forget which group it was, but I think you were the admin of it.
Right.
And
It's one of the
getting into
Passio groups.
getting into some of Mark's work. And
Mhm.
so how did you end up becoming a content creator on the One Great Work Network? How did you find natural law and start becoming a teacher of it?
Well, I guess that's a hell of a question. I guess I discovered natural law just when I discovered like that people feel pain. you know, like I don't know, like when you're growing up, like don't harm others, like you know what I mean.
It's
I guess
innate.
it's like a it's innate. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
And like the rest of what like the society like gives us this fucking stealing, theft, you know what I mean, the absence, lack, and like fear, you know, that whole thing. So I guess I started as somebody that like hated the world and myself and everything about it, and was like didn't want I didn't believe that love was real. I had like I was very like I mean, I don't know. My family, my dad's an alcoholic, and they got divorced, and you know, it's I don't know. I grew up as like by the time I was I started as a Catholic, you know, and then that I was like already getting kicked out of catechism when I was like 11 because I was asking questions, you know, being logical and using my brain, and you know,
They hate that shit.
yeah, man, they kicked me out. And then I was like telling my dad, and I was like, I don't want to go. I don't believe in this shit. And then he's like, you don't have to go. The only reason why, I mean, was because you got to have religion because we're a family, right? And my parents have already divorced by that point. So he was like, whatever. So I just had nothing, you know. And then by the time I was in high school, I was like hating all religion because I mean, I saw it as a mind control, but my conscious mind didn't know what really I hated about it. You know what I mean? And then it, like, I saw all the evil that is like portrayed in the name of religions. You know what I mean? And I thought of that. I thought of if I was to battle that, then I would be defending humanity, you know? And so I was battling religion for years, and I like honed my sword, you know, like I was really, you know, I took a class in high school called Bible as Literature, because you can't teach Bible in public school, you know, and so they had to frame it as literature. So they took the stories and then they talked about it like a regular book, you know, like it's just an English class, you know. And my friends and I, we were all Satanists, like would take the class just to fuck with the teacher. And that's how we got our jollies. And it was really like I could see how, I mean, I was a terrible person. You know, and I guess learning, I guess, so when I recognized, I recognized that I don't know. I guess I found love and I recognized that, okay, there is pain, you know, and it's not all meaningless. I guess maybe that's where I first started with natural law. I don't know. Like I started like I fucking I don't know. Like I got my heart broken a bunch and I don't know. Like I just learned to not harm others, you know what I mean? And the way that I became part of the group with the admin, um I decided like I was following Passio and following a bunch of others and I decided to go to an event where Passio was holding and I met some people and they were like, you're going to free your mind. And I was like, eh. And so like they made sure like that I went to free your mind. And then the next free your mind, like they made like I was given a table to like sell my shirts and stuff. Like it's like I went and I introduced myself and I met these people and I showed them care and I expressed love. And then the rest of it just happened. You know what I mean? Like, Leah is like one of my best friends now. Like, I, I care for her more than my own family. And, you know, it's like, it's grown because I've like the trust and the care has grown because there's good people, I guess. I don't know. And like they can recognize I'm an observer, I guess, and I'm aware, you know, and I have expressions. I'm an artist, you know. I mean, I don't know why they chose me. I mean, I'm honored that I'm chosen, and I am infinitely grateful to Mark and Leah for bringing me onto this. And
So
I hope,
were there any other teachers who led you to Mark's work, like prior to you getting into Mark's work, or were you studying different writers
yeah,
or?
I was listening to Red Ice Radio like all the time and Freeman all the time. And I guess, you know, like Michael Tessarion and you know, that kind of thing. I was never fallen into I was never really big on David Icke, and people that I really love and respected loved him so much that I I totally give him the benefit of the doubt. And you know what I mean? Like, I, I mean, um, yes, one of my best friends, like, he will not let it go. You know what I mean? And, yeah. Anyway, I guess, so I'm sorry, I'm kind of rambling on, but, I was following Michael Desarion, um, and Jordan Maxwell. And, you know, I was stumbling around trying to find the, Freeman focuses a lot on occult subjects, and I was like honing in on that. That's what my interest was. And um, Mark was on Red Ice Radio a long time ago. I don't know, 10 years ago, longer than that. I mean, from the very beginning, it was like 2007 or something. But anyway, he was on there and he was talking about natural law, or I think he was talking about being a Satanist and how he defected from the ranks and how he's trying to do the opposite, And I heard that and I was like, wow, that's like what I'm living now. Like, because I started as I was Catholic and then Satanist, and now, I was duped, same. And, he's like, I'm Irish Catholic and he's Italian Catholic. And, we both like had the same kind of thing. And so I kind of like, I tuned into his message more, I guess. And then pretty much everything he says is just the truth, I mean, not everything, like not the human civilization stuff, like the roots of the Anunnaki thing. I don't know. But I mean, everybody's allowed to have their own ideas, you know what I mean? But what is the truth that he's saying about natural law? That's true.
Yeah.
And that is real. And you can't fight that. And that's like with this ocean of like uncertainty, all of a sudden like objective morality is like the anchor, you know what I mean? And then like all that other Satanism just sorts out itself, you know what I mean? Then once I had the principles, everything aligned properly, and I was like, bing, okay, and then I was off to the races. Then everything, I could discover things in the world that I could decipher myself. And then I would bring them attention to Freeman. I'd be like, hey, look at this. And he'd be like, oh yeah, that's pretty neat. And then, and like I'd be, talking to other people, like I would send emails to like Mark Devlin and uh, Hans Utter, and the music business was really interesting for me because what it is, it's basically a big magic trick, and that's kind of why I focus so much on film, I guess. Well, that plus I'm a photographer. Like I went to school. I'm a trained photographer, fine art photographer, and but other than that, I like I don't know, like I don't know. I kind of derailed myself talking about my photography. I apologize.
That's all
No, I
right.
think
I'll jump in real quick. I got a couple
Thank you.
points that you sparked me on, Sean. So a couple things. I love how you said that, once you discovered and had an understanding of objective morality, right? That objectivity, that absolute in nature, that is an anchor
Right.
point. And that's so
Yes.
important to understand what is natural. I mean, in like the definition, and then, deconstruct your life and the environment around you of what is objective and subjective and
Yes.
natural and artificial. Having a basis and understanding in that and those premises, then you can start to define and understand things a lot clearer. But it is an anchor
Exactly.
point, and that's really important that you said that.
It
Another
was
point,
very important for
oh
me in
yeah,
my life. I'm
for
sorry.
sure.
Go ahead.
That was like a light bulb moment with me, going through multiple teachers and discovering Mark's work. Is once I got to that point of understanding objective morality, objective truth, that was a good anchor. And then, from there, once you get a correct understanding of that, then your operating system, you're filtering all the information that's
Yeah.
coming in. You can filter it with a correct lens, and then
Yes.
you can use discernment and decipher what is, truth and falsity. Um,
Very much so.
and
Yeah.
I could totally relate to what
That's
you were
what
saying in
happened.
your early life too about suffering, right? I mean, suffering is like the ultimate teacher. And sometimes you have to go through the darkness to understand or to recognize, to bring, conscious awareness to the light, um, of reality
Right.
and of existence. There's a big Buddha
Right.
quote, right? I'm pretty sure this is Buddhism. It's life is suffering. I want to correct that. Life contains suffering, right? And that is
Yeah.
and that will always be there. This is
Mhm.
something that I believe that's objective in reality, because we're here. This is a schoolyard. You have to suffer in this physical reality.
Yeah. Well, the Buddhists, like the word suffering, they really mean attachment.
Correct. Yeah.
So like, I mean, I got a little, my son he's like 16 months, and he's just it just sees booby, it sees this, and it's just attachment. And like, that's part of being human. We got to move away from booby doing this now. Okay. Wah.
Mm,
So all of a sudden suffering happens. You know what I mean?
yeah.
So like that is humanity, right? Just to be a human is to experience suffering, and because of that, we have to navigate this world properly. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah.
And like, I'm an awareness, you are an awareness. We need to figure that out and not have to step on each other. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's
Well, yeah, and the great part about that Buddhist quote is that then the philosophy becomes to learn to detach from those things, and
yes,
starting with meditating and detaching from those thoughts, and then
very
by
much.
detaching from those thoughts, you become aware of what those thoughts are. You
Mm,
become more like, you understand like what your distractions are, and getting to that. So it's interesting, how you describe you're born into it, where to survive you need these attachments, but
right.
then to raise yourself again at the end of life, you need to then
Hmm.
learn to then detach from those things, and understand that you're not going to leave here with anything when you die.
Right.
We're all
Right.
going out on our own, so
Right.
there has to be
We're
something.
taking the experience,
Yeah.
we're
Exactly.
taking that.
You step
So
onto the wheel, and then you have to step off at some point, right?
Right. Right.
exactly.
Or we're doomed to repeat it. you know
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
the
and then
human
you look around
experience
and
is
yeah,
addictive, right? The human
everybody, well,
experience is addictive for sure.
I agree with that, man.
Yeah.
But the Satanists are making it less and less fun every time around. They're they're really ruining this place, and we got to take it back. I gotta, you know what I'm
Yeah, but
saying?
No doubt.
if you have that satanic principle of the most important thing is survival, right? It's like that's what all these
Right.
people in their minds. It's like,
Right.
they'll do anything for safety, and to not, to think that they're being protected from something. They haven't dealt with the reality of, that there is no real death. This is just a place to learn, and they're forced into those attachments. Those attachments are made stronger by
Right.
the Satanists.
Right.
um
Yeah. The focus of involution. Involution is a lack and loss. You know, the growth and evolution is abundance, and that's why they're focused on lack, and making us all focus on scarcity,
Mm,
because they are they love involution. That's what they want us to focus on, and that way we're giving fear instead of love, because they're inverting it to hate the they hate the creator. You know what I'm saying? They feel
yeah.
like they're trapped in this world. and we're trapped here with them. So, fuck. Great conversation so far. This is great.
So, so you have started a podcast called Wake the Dead. I checked out the first couple of episodes. I really enjoyed it. The first
Thank you.
episode was about actually waking the dead, you know, and
Yeah.
specifically dealing with family members. I could definitely relate to that. It seems like those are the most difficult people to get through to.
Right. And they're the ones that are going to haunt you till the end. You know what I mean? Like, at least Mark can say that his mom has learned from, she told him, she's like, hey, dude, you taught me. I was like, dude, I cried at that, thinking of that. Like, my mom just denies everything. I try to say something and she'll cover her ears and make noise like a kid. Blah, 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 blah. Nope. I'm like, holy shit, dude. Like, it's tough to be a soul that's evolving. And I came from souls that don't want to evolve. You know, and it's like I'm pushing past them, like, and I'm like learning from them, and it's just, it's tough because, like, I mean, now I'm dead, you know what I mean? And like, you know, the things that I'm doing different, like I'm actually, my wife and I we were gonna do, I don't know, I'm not sure if she's still on board, but that's after this Kubrick thing. I'm going to talk about circumcision and how that is evil, and that people are unaware of the evil and they just give their kids up to the sacrifice. It's so gross, and I want to bring it to people's awareness, you know what I mean? And
Excellent.
yeah, like that's the next big thing. And like me being dad, like, you know, and that was such a big choice for us. And like, she is an expert. Like the people, those movies on circumcision, like that American circumcision movie, film, documentary, that is fantastic. But Jennifer is an expert. Like, I want to get her brain open on the microphone because, like, holy shit. Like,
Yeah.
I totally respect and like, I am just in awe of what she can teach the world. And it's just like, she's, you know, busy cleaning poopy diaper and like, you know, that kind of thing. And so we got to like get, you know, a good 2 hours of time to be able to have a microphone in front of us both. And so that it might take time, but there's a lot of study already gone into that, and we're ready, man. Holy crap.
That's an important topic, you know. I mean, even the basic information of what it actually is and where it
What it
comes from
is.
and
Yeah.
why it was done to begin with.
Yeah.
People don't even know that. You know,
yeah.
it's so it that's a huge topic.
And I mean, if you,
And the health aspect.
right.
It's
Dude.
It's all inverted.
And so the health of the baby is not just his flesh, it's his mind.
Totally.
And that is what they're doing. The mind doesn't go back to normal.
It's like it's the first trauma,
yes,
brought on by the state.
Trauma-based mind control.
Yeah.
Boom. That's what it is. And when you recognize that's how they rule us like cattle, right? We get that. Okay. So what is the most effective way to rule something? So fear works. Okay, that works some of the time. And coercion, that works some of the time. But trauma changes their brain. Trauma changes them a different person. Now they're programmed. And like, that's what trauma-based mind control is. and like they've been doing it since Babylon. And and this MK Ultra like is just the newest version of the child torture that has been going on since forever, and this circumcision is a continuation of that same trauma, torture, sacrifice of our own babies, and like we used to give the baby up. Okay, there goes my next generation. Instead, we snip his next generation. So it's like damaging his sexual ability. I mean, like, I'm going to get into like some of the trauma that snip a dick right off. And they're like, oh, they tell a mom, oh, you're dumb. You just don't know. The dick is just, it's hiding inside. They tell that to mothers, dude. Oh, dude, the evil that, I mean, and they think it's cool. And people that are like, you know, these doctors that do, I mean, the movie, The American Circumcision, they got this doctor that has performed all these circumcisions. And the interviewer asks him, what do you say to the people that think that you violated them, or like that they were violated by circumcision? And, and the guy's like, basically, oh, this happens to a bunch of people. Get over it. That's like, that's what he says,
Classic.
and so that is basically, that's his own, like, he was traumatized, his own pecker was mutilated, and then he wants to think, oh, it's normal, it's okay, it's not trauma, and that way it perpetuates it to the next generation. Oh, I just want to make it look like me, whatever. Oh, it's, the fucking reasons that they give. Oh, it'll keep him from masturbating when he's 13. What? Who are you to like mutilate him so that he can't masturbate if he chooses to when he's 13? You know what I mean? Like the idea that they like, oh, people get mad when you pierce a baby's ears, but they have a fucking party when you mutilate his penis. It's like, what the fuck is this society doing? And I want to bring that to fucking awareness. A lot of people that anarchists, like aware people, it comes to something like that, and they'd be like, oh, I don't know, snip it, whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like, people need to be aware of what it really is, and you know what I mean? And like, I don't know. It's the thing that needs to be broken.
The circumcision issue is one that has stood out to me because I've been feeling a calling this year to sort of take on Christianity just in general, the Bible, specifically the Bible, because I have a lot of people who, they say they have like a really good grasp of what's going on in the world and very similar to how I look at the world, but then they believe in the Bible, and
Right.
and they act like it's the word of God, and if you just follow it, it's fine. And
Right.
I start reading it, and the first thing that pops up to me is, what about circumcision?
Yeah.
Do you really think that your God wants you to chop your baby's penis off in order to go to heaven? And
Right.
it pops up a ton in the beginning of the Bible. I mean, I'm only on the second chapter, but there's all of these stories about them,
and it's the 8th day, and there's the law of the firstborn. Every firstborn belongs to Yahweh.
Yeah, exactly.
That's not just your kids, it's your flock, it's your cows, everything, sacrifice.
Yeah.
So the circumcision is, instead of burning my child, I'll just snip his dick. How about that?
Yep.
Evil God that wants to kill him. You know what I mean? It was a compromise. And then later, I mean, some of it used to not be. I'm sorry, I'm going further into it.
all
It's
good.
gross. I should hold back and let you talk about it. Yes, I think it's a great idea for you to talk about. Christianity is a huge block for people.
Yeah.
It's like it's a mental wall. It's the same thing as conspiracy theory. It's like, oh, you know, that all of a sudden they won't, if you, and the first thing, the like circumcision is a big thing, but when you were telling me, like, just as you described it, is, we have to give our power up to something else. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
It's like it's a blood sacrifice right off the bat. You're like, it's basically establishing this idea of sacrifice of some sort,
Yes. Like,
hurting yourself, committing violence against yourself, and also the idea that we're not made as we're supposed to be made, that there's something that we need to do to
right.
change ourselves,
Why would God
Yeah.
have, and then they basically, so if you think about it, like, God gave you that, and it has the most, I'm sorry, I'm walking around. I gotta plug the phone in.
That's cool.
This is, so God gave you your foreskin, basically, talking to the males out there, and that has all of that's like 80,000. I mean, it's like all
nerve
of
endings.
your nerve endings are, yeah. Basically, the rest of your dick is just numb compared to the foreskin. So then, if God wants you to give up that, sacrifice all pleasure for your God, like, what does that mean? What really is going on? And then, like, oh, you gotta sacrifice your firstborn to this God. And then, and the people that are performing the circumcision, they have they do it with a claw. they they cut, I mean, it's gross what they do, but they use a sharpened thumbnail to separate the glands from the foreskin, which is fused. When they're infants, it's fused together, and they use a sharpened thumbnail to tear open the it's disgusting. And then they suck the blood. Why you gotta suck the blood? you
Yeah.
know it's the most trauma that you can give a human, period. And they're sucking the blood at that moment.
Now, when you say they suck the blood, that's a specific, like,
Yeah.
practice of a certain
Yeah,
sect
it's
of
called
Judaism, right?
mitzvah. I forget the name, but yeah, I've got it written in my notes.
Yeah, it's not like at the hospital they do that, but I
No,
mean, who
it's
knows? Maybe
the
they do.
Jews.
I don't know.
Well, yes, they do. The hospital, you can, if you're Jewish family, you can have your mohel go right in the hospital and do it right there,
Yeah.
and the nurses have to watch.
Yeah.
Dude.
It serves multiple functions, right? It is a blood sacrifice ritual. Blood having the life force energy, they're giving it to a purpose, right? Their purpose, their dark purpose,
Right.
and which ultimately is a type of deity. Which these are ancient techniques that people don't even question. This has been going on
Exactly.
for thousands of years. But also within the first few days, you have this mutilation, right? And that puts a fracture in the psyche of that child,
Yes.
deep down in the subconscious.
Exactly.
And I'll share a random story real quick that has something to do with this. So I had a huge, just crazy intense DMT trip one time when I communed with DMT, and I couldn't make sense of it. It took a while to integrate what the meaning of it was, but I had a chance to talk to a shaman, And the
Mhm.
first thing he asked me was, were you born with the umbilical cord around your neck? And
Oh,
are you circumcised?
dude, both.
And
Same
for
here.
me, both. I was born with the umbilical cord
Wow.
around my neck, and I'm circumcised. Yeah, for sure.
Right.
And he said that's what the I explained my trip to him, pretty much my journey, and he says,
Dude.
yeah, that is early trauma that you were kind of going
Wow.
through. And
Wow.
but it's
Yeah, I was
a
I
huge
was
topic.
in a I was in a incubator. Like I was gonna die because I had it wrapped twice. Like I was like dead.
Wow.
And um they like injected my brain with shit. Like I don't know the full I don't know what
Yeah.
happened. My mom was there and the circumcision was like oh whatever. I mean she told me later it was long. She told me she's sorry and she would never do that again. She knows now, but at the time she was, told lies basically. You know what I mean? And she just said, "Oh, well, you know better, Dr. Guy." After I had just been through the birth trauma, I never even connected the two. Thank you for telling me that. your your DMT trip is helping me
There you go.
vicariously through this podcast. Thank you. Because holy shit, because there's more to it.
And this is what we do when we talk about morality and the dark aspects of society and all these topics. It's to get people to understand that the majority of people just fall right in line with the appealed authority fallacy, right?
Right.
The guy in the white lab coat said so I'm doing it. So they don't. That's why
I
information
know.
like this
And
topic is
it's
so important to come out and talked about often, so people
right.
understand. They get that
And it's
information and they start questioning and looking into it for themselves.
right. And you'd think that a motherly instinct would have her protecting her baby, but if she's a good woman, then she'll give away her baby on the eighth day when
This is
fucking
yeah.
dad says, "Hey, it's time now."
Yeah,
You
it's
know what I
like
mean?
it's crazy how it started with religion and
Right.
then they morphed it into science, which
Right.
is also a religion.
It's
But
another
we
religion.
were talking about this yesterday about like Edward Bernays and the whole like the Milgram experiment. I mean, I don't know if he had any involvement in that, but I think that they started to understand that if someone had a white lab coat and a stethoscope around their neck,
Right.
people would do anything, and
Right.
so they are like the new priests
Mhm.
Yeah.
of the
They didn't
religion.
even have to say push the button. They just said the the experiment must continue. That's all they said.
Yeah,
Yeah.
They,
exactly.
you know what I mean? The people chose to hit that button. That's the satanic shit. Is they get us to choose it. That's what all the mind control is about.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Because in this reality, we have to choose it.
yeah.
It's a consent.
Absolutely. Yeah, generational conditioning and programming, right? I mean, many people
Mm.
don't even ask where anything comes from, so the majority of beliefs from people have been handed to them, given to them, manufactured for them, and it just continues, and all they do
Right.
is just fine tweak the definitions, or it's or just the style. At its core essence, it's the same thing. And
Right.
that kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier about understanding subjective and objective and natural and artificial, so you can
Right.
weave through belief and start
That's
understanding
right.
truth and
Because
knowledge.
because we know that we can't trust people, but we know that we can trust nature. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Like we have learned that at least.
Yep.
So
So
let's segue. We've kind of been focusing on the dead, the zombies, and what we get tricked into doing, and the tacit agreements we fall into, and the evil we fall into. But on your second episode of your podcast, you talk about art is the rhetoric portion of the trivium, and how we need to
yes.
use art to break through to people when
Right.
when words don't work. So
That's
Why
right.
don't you talk a little bit about that, your experience with photography and how
That's
that led
great.
you into the work you're doing?
Right on. Well, I guess I mean, I don't know. Like I was, a teenager into, the punk rock and metal and that kind of thing, and so like there was always like a visual element, and like I grew up. My mom's an artist, and my stepdad's an artist, and I was like using the airbrush to make my own Metallica posters and shit when I was a kid. It was fun, but I guess that kind of. But anyway, like using like I recognize that we have a left brain and a right brain, and I went to photography school, and they teach you about how the brain works, like how it sees the world. And like I learned like your eye will go to what's the brightest thing, and it will like your brain uses your eye to get the most information it can from the scene. So if there's words, then your eye automatically goes and reads it because your brain wants to get full scope of what it's looking at. So if words are in front of you, you're going to get it. It's going in. So that's what advertising is. You know what I mean? That's like right brain going in. And you don't have to use your left brain at all. You look at the thing and you just glance at it, and your conscious mind doesn't have to look at that poster and doesn't have to think at all. But your right brain is taking it in, like Newport pleasure, smoke cigarettes, smiling white women, like and like that all goes in, and it affects the subconscious, and like 95% of what you do and say comes from your subconscious. So if if you can get away to I mean, communicating with people, I've been doing this for so many years, trying to talk. I mean, and it started with like everybody hating me, and like I was fucking scaring everybody off with like, do you know about this? And like, oh, fucking, all these rabbit holes and shit. And like nobody wanted it. Communicating the idea is the hardest thing. And like, so I started to pay attention to like how people receive the information and how best to put my message out past their guard. You know what I mean? Like I got friends that are like, yeah, but you think 9/11 is an inside job, and they put their feet up and they're like, I don't need to argue with you anymore, and they're done. And it's like, how do you get through to those people? You know? And I'm like, and being a visual artist, it's just natural for me. I created an image that, and it kind of came to me like lightning. It was, but that, good art does that, where it's like an idea, like, and then like you have to make it. It has to be done. And like I wrote it out, and like, yeah. And like I found my friend, and we made some t-shirts, and it was like it was like this idea that grew, you know what I mean? And like I understand more about it as it unfolded. And like I created this, not sure if you can see here, but this image here with the A above the pyramid was like the first real, like it's the image, the Masonic image of the pyramid is part of us. It's like an archetype, and we love money, and money is like our god. You know what I mean? Like as humanity loves money, not we, but the people, and using the sigils on their most loved, desired object puts them in a trance. Like like I've been at like a Wendy's, like waiting in line, and the guy behind the counter is just staring at my shirt, just not even saying words. He's just like, whoa. And I'm like, hey dude, can I get some fries? And he's like, oh yeah, yeah. And he starts punching the thing. And it was like it. So I learned that these archetypes, these, and I've been starting using them. Um, the archetypal symbols, the sigils that they use against us to enslave us. Like I took their message and I took away the enslaving, and I said authority is illusion, and I put that out. And that is like I can walk into I can be in an elevator with some Satanist from, financial district of Boston, and he can see my shirt and he can be mad as fuck, and I can be there with a smile. And you know what I mean? And it's, other people see it and it goes in, and it's like, oh, what the difference is, the also like um our brains will focus on what's different. So like if they're used to seeing something and everything, and then, oh, this is different, and then you focus on that. You know what I mean? So like that's, I mean, that's kind of how Kubrick works. Like that's how like a lot of subliminal advertising and stuff. Um, and so if you can, so I took the sigil and what's different, I gave that focuses their attention on what is different. Oh, why is it different? And then they keep looking, and then they're like, okay, and then they start deciphering, right? And then okay, that symbol there and that over that, and then it's like, and then they get the words, you know what I mean? And it's not written in regular, it's Latin, you know what I mean? So your subconscious mind has to decipher it because your conscious mind can't read it. So like, and if somebody has and is so inquisitive that they're like, what does that mean? They punch it into their little tablet phone thing. It teaches them, it says, their phone will tell them back, it says authority is illusion. And they go, huh? You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
Real quick, I want to mention about that logo because a lot of the viewers are going to recognize that logo, and now you know that Sean McCann was the creator of that logo, and that's a perfect example of artistic transmutation, right? You're taking
yes,
that sigil that affects everybody really, because symbols affect the subconscious, and you don't have
and
to
money
understand
affects
them.
everybody, right?
Money affects everybody. Yeah, that's probably the most popular sigil, right on your paper notes.
Yeah,
But then you change it to have it represent what we're trying to achieve, which is freedom, anarchy, and
right,
your authority is illusion, and so you have an
right,
objective truth on there as well. It's
right.
fantastic. It's a great
And
logo.
thank you. And like on the shirt, I have on the reverse side, I put the definition of anarchy. And instead of the textbook, I took a quote from Mark Passio and I reworked it. And it basically says the state of existence where there are no masters and no slaves, right? That's first definition, right? The second definition, freedom.
Yeah.
And people get that, like they see, there it is, yeah, on the
Yeah.
reverse. As you're walking away, after they had seen the image, and then they're thinking, and then as it moves through, they get the definition of what they were just looking at. and like it gets their mind thinking without you even having to say a word to them. And if they can inquire to you, hey, what's that shirt about? That's cool. If you can get them asking you questions, then they're learning. Because if you're just telling them, they don't want to hear it. No
No.
one's learning from you if you're telling them.
Mm.
If they're asking, then they're actually learning. And so that's how you got to get them asking first. And so that's another reason for the shirts, is because of that.
Mm.
Yeah.
And like, and plus I was out on the road. Like I, um, I was in a situation where they told me on Tuesday, they were like, you got to be gone by Thursday. And so I was like living in a truck. And then I was like, well, this ain't so bad. And then I was like, well, I'm on wheels. I can find a bad job anywhere. I just went south, you know. I went to where I was familiar, where I had lived in the past, you know, and then I started this life on the road now where I don't need a house. And, um, you know, I've found a way to live, and, you know, I got a Planet Fitness for showering, and you can go anywhere, any town pretty much has that. You know what I mean? If you're close to a highway, you can get to that. And so like I didn't want to be tied down, and I wanted to like meet people, and I wanted to spread the message, obviously. And I had these shirts, and I was wearing them, and I was giving them away. Like I was giving away so many goddamn shirts. And like the Rainbow Gathering, like I must have given like $300 or $400 worth of shirts to the Rainbow Gathering, like just because people, you know, and these people are on the side of the road and they're asking for money, and they be wearing this T-shirt, and then every car that goes by sees my T-shirt, and then the people that are wearing it are psyched because they're anarchists, you know, and they are rejects of society, and they choose to be on the sidewalk there with the cardboard sign. But I mean, in any case, they're psyched on the shirt, and the shirt is out there in the world. Everybody's looking at it. You know, it's teaching people just by being there. And I think that's a huge tool that we have. And everybody is an artist. So, like, you don't have to do what Mark says, where you got to have this expensive computer, and you got to have, you know, all these podcasts. And like, he is amazing at what he does, but everybody is an individual, and everybody can be just as excellent as he has been in their own way. You know what I mean? You don't have to do it because, like, I got a podcast, you got a podcast. He inspired us, right? I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm saying that's great. But what I'm also saying is that everybody has something. Like, it doesn't have to be what that person says is success. You can create it. And every person is an artist. Like, we we create and we emote, and when you put those things together in a tangible object, you know, and another person can see it, that's art. You know what I mean? I think that's just being a human. And like, everybody needs to start making art and expressing their humanity and telling people what they really think, instead of being like, oh, you don't bring up politics or religion because that's
Yeah.
bad. That's bad society.
Yeah.
That's,
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, I definitely love what you're doing with the visual work, and I like the way you talked about it on the podcast. So, what are your plans beyond the Wake the Dead podcast? Or do you have any other projects in the works?
well, I have some projects coming up. Yeah, I'm going to be speaking next month at Seed 4, which is going to be an online conference where, it's kind of like a Free Your Mind or, that type of conference, but it can't be held in person because the Satanists have had their way, you know.
Mhm.
Anyway, so we are bringing our art and our works to a digital venue for people, and it's going to be May 18th. Shit, I wasn't prepared. I'm sorry.
14th and
Uh,
15th.
Thank you.
Seed 4 conference. Yeah, man.
Yes, and I'm going to be talking about Stanley Kubrick and the occult aspects of his last film, Eyes Wide Shut. And it's a film that's like totally obvious. It's like everybody knows, like all that symbolism, And then you hear people talking about it and nobody gets it. It's like, I'm not paying the agger. Um, um, there's a dude that does a lot of film. And he's got like a paywall where he's got some theory about it, which I don't know about because it's a paywall. But um, I guess I'm like, nobody gets what is really going on. Like, Where the Rainbow Ends is a children's book about fucking lost family members being found, right? And then at the end of the movie, the daughter gets kidnapped, right, by the cult. And then you look at Kubrick's daughter gets taken by Scientology. And then Scientologists are the ones that Kubrick hired to be about this movie about the cult. There's all these levels that you got to get through. And basically it's Kubrick is telling us about the slavery, what it is to be a slave victim of the dark occult, to be a whore for the elite, basically. um it examines from childhood, and that's Helena, to motherhood of Alice, to the wasted others, like the dead woman, and the women at the party are like party favors, and the little Lily Sobieski and the underage whore with all the makeup. Like, all of those things are told in this story that's just like somebody stumbling into this, the naked boobies, you know and maybe they just want to get their rocks off. And at the end, it's just the way that the elite, they give you, it could be that 9/11 happened because some towel heads with like from a, I'm not trying to disparage anybody. I'm just saying, like, what it, it could be that steel melts from kerosene, right? We could just choose to believe this lie that they give us, or we could look further into what was actually revealed, told to us, and we just choose not to see.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what 9/11, what it was. Like, we saw it, and now we choose to have our eyes shut. It's
Yeah.
eyes wide shut.
It's
And
even clear with what's going on now. I mean, people are just
Yes.
acting like they don't understand, this, or they'll just talk total nonsense to you about what we've all known to be true our whole lives about how the immune system works, or
Right.
anything else. And people act like, oh, no one knows, it's this new thing, no one knows, trust the experts. No one's thinking for themselves.
That's
Trust the God people. Trust those people in the uniform.
The white coats.
that goes good with kind of a partial theme of what we've been talking about today, right? It's just people, they're given these belief systems. So
Right.
I know your presentation is going to be really good on that, and that's something that people need to keep in mind when they're watching the television, the propaganda box, these
Right.
movies. They're given messages that
Right.
they don't know. They're unconscious to it, but yet
Right.
it still goes in, and still it's like a little,
Yes.
it
Exactly.
nestles right in that subconscious, and it
Yep.
does have an effect on behavior for sure.
Yeah. And his movies have had an effect on generations. I mean, 2001 was like, that plus LSD and that whole thing of the 60s, like that movie happened right then, boom, for everybody to get high and
Mm.
go to the fucking
Yeah.
it's just like a Tool concert now, like, oh, smoke your Deemsters and on your LSD, like right then when the fucking moment peaks, like, like that's it's because then they are giving us the happy, and then you have to pay $100 to go see Tool, and then you can't be really happy. And like, I mean, if you do that hit of DMT listening to Tool out there in some field somewhere, they can't make money off of that, especially if you downloaded that fucking album. So what are they going to do? They got to create this desire in us, you know, with the Bernaysian bullshit.
Yeah.
And like, you know, a movie or a concert is a magic show. They take over your visual, your auditory, you know, everything. It's like a sensory deprivation, except for the message that they want to give to you in your brain, you
Mhm.
know.
Yeah.
And like I said, 95% is like subconscious. Like your conscious mind can't get it all. And like,
Yeah.
that's why um that's like Kubrick knew that we'd be seeing these movies again and again, especially with videotape. Like, videotape happened right along The Shining. And he changed how he did movies for The Shining. You know what I mean? And he knew that people would see it again and again. And it's like, it's another tool for the artist to give a message. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like a more effective way to get that message. And like for also with 2001, people take LSD just to get to that end point, right? But he gets all that in between those 2 hours to like tell you what, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? And in the beginning, in that first scene, he's telling about how carnism and beating your neighbor into submission, death, killing another monkey, ape, over scarcity, you know, that that's the way of the world,
Yeah.
and then it casts the bone out
Mhm.
of the garden. It's like casting it out of the garden. Cast out.
Yeah, and then
And
it leads to us, developing industrialization and
yes.
technology, and
Yep. And then the
dominating the
highest point
earth.
of that technology could get, that is that HAL 9000. Supposedly that's the best that technology can give,
Right.
and he has no conscience.
Yeah.
He can kill. It's whatever.
Mhm.
That's
Yeah.
the way you get through in life, because you kill your ape, you know? Meanwhile, nature was living fine. The apes and the pigs were sharing the fucking vegetation. There was a little bit of scuffle here, but whatever. And then the apes discovered that they could kill and they could eat, and like, and Kubrick focused on like the teeth going into and the squish sound, and then you had the sound of flies, and that's like a natural rotting sense, like the drone of flies, subconsciously that's rot and it's repulsive, and he used that as a tool for us to understand. I mean, a lot of people don't understand what is the first part of that movie. Oh, whatever, just some monkeys, like. But really, what it's saying is that it's like,
we don't have to give too much away because you have a presentation on it.
I do.
I'll stop it. That's a great teaser, everybody. Seed 4 Growth Conference, May 14th and 15th. Yeah, check it out. It will be streaming on the One Great Work Network, which Sean McCann has his work. Good. It is confirmed, and then people can go to, I believe it's the cubbyhole.com to get information. I think it will stream on there as well, but it's a free conference, so go check it out.
Yeah. And cubbyhole.com, WHOLE, is that CUBBYWHOLE.com?
Yep.
Okay, that's great.
Sure.
Yeah, man.
And good ups to Brandon for still putting it forward. This whole coronavirus bullshit has put a kibosh on everybody's good time. And Mark Devlin was supposed to fly over from England, and it was going to be a big old party.
Yeah.
And it sucks, but Mark,
I was gonna drive my ass out there.
Yeah. Yeah, dude, it would have been great. Like, everybody would have been all together, and Mark was going to have a DJ set where he was going to play music, and it would have been great. But
it's still going to be a great conference. Brandon Martin is just a beast of a warrior for the great work, man. So he's going to put on. It's going to be a phenomenal conference.
I agree.
Yeah,
definitely.
And we'll definitely have you back on, Sean. And
oh, great.
We'll maybe we can get in a little deeper into Kubrick.
That'd be fun, dude. I go on forever and ever about
I love it.
But yeah, they could check out your work at the One Great Work Network. Do you have a website?
I don't have I guess One Great Work Network is the best place to find my stuff.
Yeah.
I've got a store for the shirts, Store Frontier /Auctoritas Illusio, which AUCTORITASILLUSIO. It means authorities illusion in Latin. I thought it was clever then, but trying to tell somebody anyway, that's the store.
We'll put a link of all that and the Store Frontier site in the description. I'm wearing one of his shirts, so you got great shirts
Cheers
on there, man.
To that,
somebody,
thank you.
Yeah, go check them out and support. Anarchy and true freedom.
My mom actually made that. I asked her if she could make a phoenix. Like I told her what I wanted, and she's got a pen. And did like in an hour, she did that, and she's like, "Here you are." I was like, awesome. "Wow, thank you." And I took all the other elements, put it together, but
that's awesome, man.
It was amazing. Yeah.
All right, Sean. Well, thanks for coming on, and keep up the great work.
Thanks, brother.
Hell yeah.
Thank you, Will.
Thanks, John.
And always remember, put something good in the air and plant something good in the earth. Peace.
Cheers.
We be the natural freedom league, cause we become no longer unvegan. We seek in the wisdom, and that's why we did come to this prison, a prism. And that's why the beat thumps, and that's why we speak up. We